Happy Halloween, everyone! And what better way to celebrate than to focus on the classic icon of silent horror cinema with Nosferatu, an early and non-authorized Dracula adaptation directed by F.W. Murnau. Because this is in the public domain, it'll show up in nearly all of these cheap movie packs, but instead of watching the low-quality Mill Creek DVD of this important film, I instead got the Kino Blu-ray, which has a different score and better picture, but the two copies are pretty identical to one another. The film stars Max Schreck in the very terrifying role of Count Orlok, a vampire who is visited by Thomas Hutter after stern warnings from the local village. After Orlok purchases a house near Hutter and his wife Ellen, Hutter begins to fear that Orlok is Nosferatu, the bird of death. Orlok travels back to Hutter's town of Wisborg to take the blood of his wife Ellen while carrying around a casket of Transylvania dirt, which when you see the film it looks pretty hilarious. The town fears that the boat Orlok arrived on may have carried over a plague, which puts the town on lockdown, leaving Ellen helpless. Yeah, so on paper this is a very straightforward adaptation of Dracula. In fact, some versions of this film have the characters simply called by their Dracula counterparts. Count Orlok has an excellently creepy look. Bela Lugosi basically defines the look of Dracula, but he had the help of being in a sound film. This doesn't have that luxury, it's a silent film, so in order to create a good scare, you needed an image that burned into your retina. Count Orlok has a mysterious face, huge ears, awkward proportions, and really long arms. It's an image that you'll never forget. While I haven't read the original book by Bram Stoker, I've seen the 1931 film from Universal, and I can make a couple comparisons to what I like about this version compared to the other. For instance, the scenes in Transylvania are expanded upon in more detail. The opening minutes also feature the main character of Thomas Hutter at home with his wife. I like that Count Orlok doesn't appear until 20 minutes into the film, and that his journey to Wisborg is heavily suspenseful. The film takes its time with the dark story and features an incredible score that's basically absent from the Universal film. I shouldn't compare the two films, but it's a helpful way to represent why this film is so classic. It's an easy story to follow that relies on visuals to create a sense of environment. Some of these sets are huge and lavish, and others are obscured in their angles, which can be attributed to the German Expressionism movement of the time. You can find this look in other films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Metropolis, and it even survives today with the likes of Henry Selick and Tim Burton. Some scenes would simply be boring in another film of the decade, but because they had brilliant cinematographers Fritz Arno Wagner and Gunther Kramp at the helm, it made something like Count Orlok walking up the stairs an iconic scene. Moments like him rising from the casket or his first reveal at the doorway are breathtaking moments in horror. I wish I could do this film more justice, but for any fan of film, this has to be seen. I will say that, like many silent films, a modern filmgoer might have trouble viewing it. I'll even say I had to clear my own schedule to prepare for it. It's not something like Metropolis, where I'm engaged in so many levels that it remains timeless to my modern senses. Nosferatu can be slower at times, and its simplicity may keep you less engaged. Characters have that traditional silent film approach to them, and it relies heavily on intertitles, so I can't recommend this as quickly as other classic films, as I myself am probably not going to be rewatching it quicker than other films of the time, but it's still a landmark. If you've been trying to see some of the earliest horror films ever created, give it a watch.